Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Yes, my dear. I've been expecting you. Please, come in.
They call me Christian Grey.
How do you like my blue room?
It's red.
Oh, I'm colorblind. My decorator assured me that... Never mind.
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show, live on the 16th of February 2015 at around about 10 to 9. Yes, we are late. Why?
My fault again. I've just been busy and doing things, and I was not able to get stuff done in time, and I have a busy life now. Stop hassling me.
Yeah, you're not the only one. I work too. I work from 9 o'clock in the morning till 5:30 at night. So it's not that we're both in exactly the same situation. Plus, just to make matters worse, I've got a cold. I've got another cold. This is my 6th cold in 2 months.
Yeah, you need to stop opening windows and things.
Yeah, great things take their time, says David in the live chat. That's questionable. I'm Stuart, by the way.
I'm Andrew.
And on this week's show, well, the cinema section is taking a bit of a romantic feel when we look at these films.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But yeah, we have the adaptation of the E.L. James novel 50 Shades of Grey that has done massive records pre-release sales. We have a weird sort of indie drama with Miles Teller in Two Night Stand. And we have a interesting drama from sort of people including John Lithgow and Alfred Molina in Love is Strange.
Yep, and on Blu Ray and DVD we're looking at these films.
Australian horror in The Babadook. We have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are back on the big screen, on the screen in live action form. We have the sequel to Dolphin Tale, it's funnily enough titled Dolphin Tale 2. We have the animation with the Book of Life. We have a Disney sort of family fun with Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day, which I'm not going to say that again. A bit of a sort of a small budget thriller with The Calling, and then I don't know how to describe this. I'm just going to say weird coherence.
Yeah, on top of that, we have our usual Blu-rays and box office top 10s and movie news. Make sure you check out our website, mondaymovieshow.co.uk, and leave us feedback on our Facebook page, facebook.com/mondaymovieshow, and Twitter @mondaymovieshow. Let's kick things off, as usual, with movie news.
Yeah, I mean, I know you've got a whole load of them. I've just got one, though, which was last week. Annoyingly, they always seem to do this. They always seem to release news, big news, on a Tuesday now. So it's like after the show, and then we have to wait a week to report it. This week, it was the whole thing of Spider-Man. And if you've not known what that is already about, then honestly, what could you have been under? Spider-Man is coming home, basically, to Marvel from Sony, who technically owns the movie rights to Spider-Man. Basically, all the films that have been made so far, the live-action films that have been made by Sony, who have the film rights. They've seen sort of dwindling results from their movies for the web slinger, and have now sort of bargained and made a deal with Marvel Studios so that actually Spider-Man can be returned to them, but also still be in films for Sony. What this means is that we're going to get to see Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which means he will appear alongside the ones we've already seen, like Iron Man, Captain America, all of those characters who share the universe. He is now able to appear with them. What the deal means is that there's going to be Spider-Man making appearances in the upcoming Marvel films that have already been announced, some of which have been shifted around slightly in dates, possibly to allow then for Spider-Man to appear in its own standalone film again on July 28th, 2017, which will be a film that will be made and financed by Sony, but will be actually produced and co-produced by Kevin Feige and Marvel. Sony Pictures will continue to finance, distribute, own and have final creative control over the Spider-Man films, but it just means that as the fans wanted and fans will now get to see Spider-Man appear in upcoming Marvel films, whether or not this means he will appear in the storyline of the next Captain America film, Civil War, which he did appear in the comics, quite a strong, heavy part of that actual story, is yet to be confirmed. But it's a thing of that's something the fans really want. I think, to be honest, Marvel are going to try and give it to them.
That's a lot to take in there, but
it is. I mean, it's only one thing, but it is a big thing. It is.
Yeah. Firstly, though, to be honest, Spider-Man coming back home to Marvel. Well, technically he didn't leave Marvel, but it's Spider-Man coming back home to Marvel, and well, not even coming back home. It's Spider-Man being a part of the full-on Marvel universe instead of sort of like looking in and going, people, by the way, I'm a Marvel character as well in movie form. So it's obviously with Sony holding the rights to the Spider-Man films, and like you said, there being dwindling returns, and I think it's down to the quality of the films because they've just been lacking in any kind of punch or spark. Since Spider-Man 2, to be honest, because 3, that's when Sam Raimi's trilogy, it sort of like it ended off on a bit of a damp squib, and then the return of Spider-Man, the way they tread that was sort of like very reboot territory, treading exactly the same path as they've done before, and they made the sequel to Amazing Spider-Man very. It just had no interest in it whatsoever. It just didn't seem to care that much, in my opinion, anyway. And so the thing is, sort of like they would have to rewrite Civil War in a little bit to actually accommodate to Spider-Man. And the way they might actually do that is, instead of rewriting the main crux of the storyline, which they've got for Civil War, they'll probably just add him in as sort of like the end of credit sequence, just to test the waters to see how it goes in that front, and then maybe crop him up in sort of like phase 3 of the Avengers films leading up to the Avengers movie.
Maybe. I mean, it's the thing that I look forward to, because I mean, the thing is that Spider-Man was in the original. I don't know it fully, but I know that there was a big storyline in the whole thing. You have what's been announced already. Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. will be appearing in Iron Man 3, because the whole thing of Civil War is that it's an argument, a battle, sort of the two sides of basically mutant registration, even though Marvel cannot use the word mutant, and the whole thing of, you know, Tony Stark is for it, Steve Rogers, Captain America, is not for it, he's against it, and Spider-Man is the one that gets caught in the middle in the comics, and it's a thing of the supposedly they were going to use the character of Black Panther, which is why Black Panther is now getting a separate movie with Chadwick Boseman playing the character. And supposedly there's been rumoured that he will be making a sort of introduction appearance in Age of Ultron soon, coming out in a couple of months. But the thing is, then, if that's the case, then you do feel kind of sorry for him, because his character is going to get severely downgraded from what it was originally going to be. But I gladly welcome this. I like Spider-Man. I love the Marvel films. I'm looking forward to seeing this all coming together. Now all we need is for the X-Men series to come back to them, but that's probably not going to happen anytime soon.
That's pushing it way too far, because then it's not going to give any individual creativity to any of the characters. Because the problem I see is, if we're going to have them under all one roof, then nobody is going to have their own individuality. No series is going to have their own individuality in that case. So it's only fair that you give creativity to different people instead of it all being under the same thing, because that's all the studio is going to just churn out, just superhero films, and then Disney is just going to be known as the superhero studio, and they might start to push away from some of this stuff. It's even bleeding into that animation now with Big Hero 6. So we need things like X-Men. It needs to have its own individuality and stay where it is. Keep it doing what it's doing, because that's fine. It's sort of like, instead of like letting Marvel release 6 or 7 films a year.
I don't know about that. I kind of disagree with that, because you see you know what we've done with the films so far. Each one of them has been separate and had its own sort of identity for the Marvel films that have been done. So I don't have a problem with that.
But again, the problem I'm looking at is if it's all under one roof, they'll think that the best way to appease everybody is to bleed them all into one film. And so by the end of it, you're going to have a film that's got so many characters in it. It'll need to be longer than the Hobbit trilogy combined to make any sense whatsoever.
But the thing is, though, what you're not sort of counting on is the fact that they haven't just gone, things like the Avengers weren't just gone, oh, we've got all these comic book characters, let's put them in one film. This is actually what happened in the comics. The comics they were all separate characters. Then they started appearing in each other's and making cameos. And then they started having a comic line, which was the Avengers and other ones as well that cross over and have them all appear in each other. So it's not them coming up with new things and going, oh, we have to put these characters into each other's films. It's a thing of them going and basically saying these characters all live in the same world. And they do from time to time cross over and meet each other and such. And so that happens in the comics. It's going to happen in the films. So that's where I think Marvel is different from anywhere else that might be trying to do it, such as Universal with their Monsters University, sort of their Monsters crossover thing.
The difference is, though, they're comics. They're not films. Films, you've got a very small period of time to tell a story. In a comic, you can tell it over multiple issues. It's easier to be able to tell a more coherent story over a comic than it is to tell a coherent story in a film, especially if you're going to have so many characters to do that. If you look at the next Avengers film, there is going to be so many different characters in that movie. Will it end up being just as good as the previous Avengers film? We don't know.
That's why down the line we're going to have a 2-part Avengers film. I mean, I agree that happens, but I think Marvel will do it well. They'll do it proud.
It's just a saturation of too many characters in films. It'll end up being a mess, and Marvel will end up having a flop, and will end up hitting them hard because they'll then realise that not everything actually works. And to be honest, I hope that does happen, just to give them a taste of what it would feel like for that to happen. It sounds cynical of us, but it would just be to have one film where it doesn't do as good as they're expected it to do. But we could be here forever.
For me, that was the last Thor film, but yeah, we'll be here forever if we don't move on, so let's move on.
Good job, because I've got lots of news, but a lot of it is just little small chunks, little bites, so I'll get rid of the few little bites first. According to rumours, Bryan Cranston is to play the role of the main villain in Star Trek 3.
Oh, okay. Has there been any hints at who he's going to be playing?
Absolutely none whatsoever.
Okay, I hope it's going to be someone original for a change and not just rehashing a villain from the previous films and series. And I'd like to see him playing someone new. Come up with a new character. Do something different. Do something that's completely unexpected. Yeah, don't copy the things that were done in the other films like J.J. Abrams did last time, because that was just horrible.
Sticking with Marvel, Age of Ultron has supposedly had its running time leaked. 2 hours 40 minutes.
Well, I mean, you're saying about them being that many characters, and the thing is that generally then each character has to get some amount of screen time or get shortchanged. So yeah, the running time is going to end up going a bit longer. I mean, how long was Avengers? Avengers was 2 hours and 20, something like that, and that's the first one. And there's obviously been more characters created and added into this one. So I don't have a problem with that, as long as it's not got a big long bit in the middle where you're going, cut this out and just get on with it, like Transformers. Then I have no problem. If I'm entertained for 2 hours and 40 minutes, then I'll gladly sit through that, and probably more than one occasion.
Dave Bautista is being cast as the bad guy in the Highlander reboot. He's going to be playing the Kurgan.
I actually think that's a good move. I quite like that idea. I mean, he's playing a villain in the next Bond film as well, isn't he? Yeah. He's been cast in that. And I think I can see that. I mean, the thing is, Guardians of the Galaxy was a big game changer for him, because he not only did a good job, he did a fantastic job, and he showed actual not only presence but also acting skill. If you look at what he did, the films he did before that, which was Man with the Iron Fists. I was going to say Man in the Iron Master. Man with the Iron Fists, and then the third Riddick film, which he didn't really do much in except sort of look at the camera and grunt every now and again. But in Guardians of the Galaxy, he was an actual character, and not only that, he was one of the funnier more enjoyable characters and rememberable characters of the film.
Yeah. Maria Cotillard has been cast in the Assassin's Creed movie. However, just like with the Assassin's Creed film, no details has been released whatsoever. None. Nobody knows what character even Michael Fassbender is playing in the film.
That's because nobody knows what they're doing with the film, I don't think.
It's out next year as well.
Yeah, it's been one of these films that's been delayed and having things going on so long that I think it's one of these cases of left hand not having a clue what the right hand's doing. And in the end, it's just going to come out and it's going to be a complete disaster.
Joel Kinnaman is in talks to take over Tom Hardy's role in the Suicide Squad film. Joel Kinnaman will be playing Rick Flag.
I mean, we're back in comic book territory here. I'm more Marvel than I am DC. Anyone who sees us on Facebook will know from sort of me and Mark from Following the Nerd sort of arguing a lot over that because he's more DC than Marvel. But I'm kind of holding my breath to see what the next Batman vs Superman film, what that's going to be like, how that will turn out, and then I think it's going to be based on that as to whether or not it will be any good, the rest of them, or if it's going to be a complete disaster again.
Joel Kinnaman did play RoboCop.
Yeah, and he's playing next in a film with Liam Neeson, where Liam Neeson is playing the completely same role he's played for the last 6 films.
Yeah, it was one of the trailers that was shown during the Super Bowl, and it looks awful. The final piece of news that I have, this made me giddy like a little school kid, because I just love this one.
So is this animation then?
No, nothing to do with Studio Ghibli making another film after When Marnie Was There. Or nothing to do with what Kat decided to post up on Facebook saying that there's going to be a Studio Ghibli theme park. There is one in Japan, but this Sigourney Weaver suggested that she would gladly reprise her role as Ripley for a 5th and final time, but only if director Neil Blomkamp was involved. Last month, Blomkamp revealed that he was working on ideas for an Alien film outside of Fox and revealed some of his artwork that he came up with. It's not just Weaver, though, who's shown interest, but Fox has indicated also that they would love to tackle another film in the series, a 5th and final film.
Now, this is actually interesting because, as it is the way the films are at the moment, all the franchises are getting brought out again to make another film, because basically the big Hollywood thing is that they're going, we can make another film based on this one. It'll have a big draw because everyone wants to see another one of those films, which in some cases is good. It does well. It's enjoyable. A lot of the cases though, it's not any good. The Alien franchise is something that actually could do a really good job because each one of them every time has been something different from the last one. And they have a different director who does their own style. They don't do sequels where it's going to be exactly the same. They basically go, here's a film, here's an idea, here's you, the new director, go and do your thing. As much as there have been disasters in the way things have happened with David Fincher and such on Alien 3, but I really do love Alien 3. It's surprisingly that was one that came out and had so many problems because of the fact that the studio was so over sort of bearing on it, but despite that it came out to be a really good film, and that's what's been lucky about it. So, I mean, if the studio is smart about this, they could quite easily make another film that will do well. I have suspicions though that they're thinking on this is the way that a lot of things have been thought now. The Alien series is a franchise. If they do one more film, that's it. They've also obviously got the Prometheus sequels potentially happening, or not. We don't really know because it keeps sort of that and the Blade Runner thing by Ridley Scott are being sort of thrown around, and we don't really know what's happening with them, to be honest. Even though they're supposedly moving forwards, there's been very little headway made on those from what we hear. But I suspect, and I'm afraid of, potentially they may reboot the Alien series because it's the thing to do now.
Yeah, but I don't agree with you on that, because did you see the treatment that Blomkamp came up with?
I saw some of it. I saw some of the artwork he did, which did really good. I didn't see much of that. Is there actually a treatment out there? I haven't seen that. No. He
released some of the treatment and some of the ideas that he came up with, and he's been speaking a lot with Sigourney Weaver, obviously because Sigourney Weaver's in Chappie, the film that's out on March the 6th, which I cannot wait for because it looks an amazing film. And I love Blomkamp's style, the way Blomkamp, even though Elysium had its problems. There was still Blomkamp's brilliantly working mind there. He has an understanding about humans in sci-fi. And so I think that with the ideas that he definitely wants to finish it off on Earth and come up with an idea surrounding that. Sort of like very similar to what Alien vs. Predator Requiem was like, but not nowhere near as bad and awful as that.
No.
And like you said, I agree with you when it comes to the fact that each one of the Alien films has a different director. Ridley Scott, James Cameron, David Fincher, Jean-Pierre Jeunet. And they've all come up with their own different takes and different ideas. In a way, it feels more like American Horror Story, the TV series American Horror Story, rather than each series have something to do with each. Because you've got little bits and bobs where they have something to do with the previous film, but they feel different. You can watch them in any order, and they would still make sense. I think they would.
I don't know about that. No,
I do anyway, because even if you look at what Jean-Pierre Jeunet did with Alien Resurrection, it is probably the runt of the litter of the 4 films. It is the weakest one out of the 4 films, but there was still some interesting ideas in that movie, and so Blomkamp, I would love him to tackle it. I just would absolutely love him to be the director of the 5th and final, hopefully, Alien film, just to say goodbye to the character of Ripley. Then they could, if they wanted to, spin it off and tell the story about the daughter, because if you look at Alien Isolation, the video game, they could base a film around that, and so set it in between 1 and 2, and tell the story of Ripley's daughter. So there is a few avenues they could go down. But please let it be Blomkamp directing.
The thing is, talking about that, you're right about Neil Blomkamp has a really interesting way in looking at. I wouldn't say about humans, but I would say about the human condition. And for that, I would actually say he should be the one directing the next Star Trek film. He should actually be the one they got to direct the next Star Trek film, not anyone else. I mean, this whole thing with Roberto Orci then, who ended up leaving and stuff, and it's I think he should have been the one to do that, because he would do a great one and an intelligent one as well. Just also going to ask you as well, because I know she's listening, she's in the chat. My other half, believe it or not, has not seen the Alien films, and she won't watch them because she thinks they're
really
rubbish. Yep. So please, will you help me right now, put her straight and tell her what she should be watching and why?
Yeah, I had high regard with you, Kat, but now I feel annoyed because the fact that you've not seen the Alien films. I can't believe that. They are some of the best science fiction films ever created. They are up there with films like 2001: A Space Odyssey and The Thing and movies like that. They are 4 films that need to be seen for any movie fan. Shame on you.
So yeah, I'm gonna be in trouble, but it's worth it.
Yeah, shame on you. Right, the UK box office top 10 at number 10 is a new entry for The Interview.
Yeah, the thing is, it has its moments, but it really, the thing is, it's funny the fact that in America it got pulled from cinemas because of the whole thing with the supposed North Korea hacking and all that, and it got released as a sort of straight to video on demand thing, which is where I think it actually belongs. I don't think it belongs in a cinema. It's not cinema material. It's not anywhere near as funny as it should be. It's very crass. It's, the typical thing you'd expect from something that's got James Franco in it and is a supposed comedy nowadays. So, yeah, I can see why it's gone at number 10, because not many people are interested in it. And I kind of agree that it doesn't need to be there. It has a few laughs, I will admit, but it's not anywhere near as good or indecent as it should be.
It's a movie that's just it doesn't show anything new, anything different at all. It's just boring, to be honest. I when I was watching it, I couldn't believe this was the movie that caused all the uproar that it did.
Yeah. If anything, it actually did better out of the whole thing than it would have if nothing had happened and it just been released and just disappeared into the night.
Yeah, its screen average was £989 on its 287 screens that it showed. There was only 2 other films in the top 10 with a much lower screen average than that, but they've been out much longer. So it just shows you that a lot of people would have seen it in other methods, other ways, because you not only had it released on demand in the US, it is now on US Netflix, and people have a way of getting US Netflix. People will have illegally downloaded it just to see what the film was actually like. We don't condone that, but people would have done that just to see what the uproar was like in the film. And so the amount of time that it's taken for the film to come out, which it's out on Blu-ray and DVD very soon anyway, don't see the point.
It's been given a very rushed release because of that, I think, because the studio realises that when people see it and then word of mouth spreads, they're going to go, it's terrible, don't bother.
Exactly. And number 9 is Taken 3.
Talking of terrible and don't bother.
Yeah, this is one. Yeah, this is one of the films that's got a lesser screen average than The Interview. There is another one with even worse, but just don't bother. Number 8 is Into the Woods.
Which, I mean, not necessarily terrible, don't bother, but really, unless you're really, really into your musicals and you want to see something like that, then, don't bother. But, I mean, it's got a thing for musicals. People who are into musicals enjoy it. You can see why it is doing fairly well for itself, but it's just not up to the level of what has now become established as musicals in cinema with things like Les Mis. Even as much as it didn't critically do well, Rock of Ages, because it's a more accomplished film. I loved Rock of Ages. But I can see how a lot of people didn't, and I think, I mean, for this, I've seen Les Mis, I can remember songs from it. I've seen Rock of Ages, and I know obviously a lot of them were songs that were famous songs. I recognise them and everything. I've seen Into the Woods. I can't remember. I couldn't hum a tune. There's nothing in it that made me want to go, oh, there's this song I love singing. Nothing. It's completely forgettable.
Yeah, I didn't like Rock of Ages. I didn't like Rock of Ages at all. But I really like Les Miserables. However,
even you have to admit, Rock of Ages, you didn't like it. But I bet you could hum one of the tunes right now.
Yeah, but if you let me finish what I was going to say, though, I do actually like Rock of Ages more than Into the Woods. Even though I didn't like Rock of Ages, it had its moments in it. But the worst thing about Into the Woods is it's a pantomime on the big screen. That's all it is. It's anything more than a pantomime on the big screen with a last third, which doesn't even need to be there. It's only there just to extend the movie out a little bit longer than it is. It's a pointless task. Just walk out 2/3 into it.
Yeah,
and number 7 is The Theory of Everything,
which is a brilliant film. I did love it. But largely because of the performance of Eddie Redmayne, who is fantastic in it. I do think that the film itself is a bit at some points on the weak side, and struggles with telling the story because of, not necessarily down to the film, but because of the book, because it's not based on anything to do with written by Stephen Hawking. It's not really, as much as it tells his story, it's not really a biopic. It's more about the life of him and his wife, because it's written by his wife. The book was written by his wife and tells everything from her perspective of him and meeting him, and then obviously him being diagnosed with his illness and their life together. And it's a good film, but it could have and really should have been better.
I really like the film. And number 6 is, and you went for Selma.
Amazingly, performance again. Because obviously we're in Oscar season, so a lot of the films being have David by that man whose name I cannot pronounce.
David Oyelowo.
Yes, thank you.
We'll eventually get you to say the name, because you managed to get Lupita Nyong'o and Gugu Mbatha-Raw and even Mia Wasikowska properly, so you'll get David Oyelowo when he's actually appeared in more films.
Well, one of the things, I've seen him in plenty of things before, and I like him as an actor. He's a really good actor.
It's exactly the same with Gugu Mbatha-Raw. It's like we said last week, we've seen them in multiple movies before. You only just realise that after they come to more of your attention when they've got the spotlight on them in a film.
We must remember to mention her when we get to a film later on in the chart as well. But Selma is a great drama, but I think the issue I have with it is it's one of these ones where it is a historical thing about a character, about the real person, but it's done as a character. and it's one of these films where it can't decide if it's going to try and be a biopic or be a telling of a historical event that happened, because it's trying to do both. It's not a Martin Luther King biopic because it doesn't focus on his life. It just focuses on him at this point, that juncture in his life, which is where I think it made a mistake. I think it should have been a longer film, because it's not even a very long film. I think it should have been a longer film, should have been focusing squarely on him for the whole film, being a full-on biopic, and then just had a full half hour, 45 minutes of it dedicated to the whole event of Selma, and made that a big point of his life, because that's sort of one of the big seminal events. But I mean, it is a good drama. It does struggle a bit with pacing and some scenes which I think are unnecessary in it, and that's why I'm saying it's a shame, because it's not even 2 hours long, and it feels too long, and yet could have been longer had it had the right intentions.
As a matter of fact, it is. It's on for just over 2 hours. See, for me, it was the Hitchcock problem that I had with the film itself. Yeah. The fact that it decided to try to tell something about one little element of his life rather than the more interesting side of it. But in my opinion, that's not the biggest problem with the film. The biggest problem with the film is I'm sort of sick of seeing movies about black slavery in America now. I went on about this last week on the show. I'm sort of sick of seeing this. I want more British directors to be more braver, or British studios to be more braver, to show the plight of British black slavery, or even British slavery full stop, because it has been shown with Belle, with Gugu Mbatha-Raw's role in that, how the matter of fact she came into high society. But it'll be more interesting to see a film where it's very much like 12 Years a Slave, where it is centered around a British slave going through the turmoils of what happened, because we had exactly the same thing as America did. We treat black people in exactly the same way. So just because we were two different countries, we were doing exactly the same thing. And I want to see that rather than the same American thing that we've had in cinema over the last 50 years, I would say. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see that side.
It'd be nice to see it, but not a direct copy of the American thing.
No, because we obviously have a different take and a different point of view of what slavery was like. But I think it'd be much more grittier, much more darker. I know 12 Years a Slave is a really dark film, but I think it would be much more of a darker movie.
Do you think it should have Danny Dyer in it?
Oh God, no! What is just like getting whipped in the background in one of the scenes, getting flayed badly?
No, like he could be like the you know the hand that sort of does the whipping and stuff like that, and is just there and doesn't say anything. He's just there to be like the whipping boy.
Can he not just be the one where the slaves just turn against him and beat the living out of him? At number 5 is American Sniper.
Yeah, talking of films that are based on books, I mean, again, with Theory of Everything, is the thing of that it's a book which tells the story from a different example. This is a different perspective. This is exactly the same. It suffers from exactly the same problem, even more so because it is all one-sided. There is the whole thing of that it's about this guy who is reported to have had over 100 and I can't remember exactly what it was, 160 or something like that kills. In Afghanistan during the Afghanistan war and Iraq war, and it's the thing of the problem with it is that it's all one-sided. You don't have so much of the sniper on the other side that he was engaged with over several periods, and that's the problem. It needs to have more of that. I agree as well. You've said that it gets the direction right on the sniper scenes in Iraq, but then obviously when it comes back to the US, that's where it has problems because it doesn't know how to handle sort of slowing down and showing the kind of the PTSD effect happening. And I agree with that. There should have been more of that and more to explain that's what happened. But it's a okay film. I don't think there's a fault with the film so much as it is with the book and the film being a faithful adaptation of the book. So it was never going to be a perfect film.
That's why I have fault with the film, because the film should not have been a proper adaptation of the book. Then if the book's faulty, then why would you make a film of a faulty book?
Mm.
You would instantly notice some of the faults and not try to actually fall into the pitfalls of the faults of the book itself. It's just, I think it's the way Clint Eastwood handles the film. He's a really, really good director, and he's proved that in some of his past movies. It's just that I think he handles, like we've both said, the sniper part extremely well, because that's where the tension and the turmoil with the character of Chris Kyle comes into it. It's just when he gets back to America, that's when it just loses its weir a lot. There is one specific scene where he's he's getting his car sing to, and there is a soldier that comes up to him, and he's got nothing in him, nothing at all, no remorse, no nothing, no. There is no soul inside of him when the soldier's actually speaking to Chris Kyle. That's how the American part felt. That summed up the American part of the film for me. Number 4, new entry for Jupiter Ascending.
Yeah, this is a film that was. I'm actually pleased it's done as well as it has. I thought it was gonna. I didn't think it was gonna get into the top 5, to be honest. I like it. I enjoy it. It's not a brilliant film. It has more than its fair share of problems, but it's entertaining and it's big dumb fun on the screen, and I enjoyed it. But it just had problems with writing. The characters are really uninteresting. The dialogue is dumb, and it has some big set pieces which are nice, but almost sort of start treading into Transformers territory of big effects and no soul. But I mean, I didn't at any point during the 2 hours of its running time find myself going, well, you know, what time is it? Look at my watch or anything, and getting bored or starting to nod off. I was actually getting into it and having fun. So it did what it needed to, but no more.
Yet I'm completely the opposite. I was bored out of my skull. How can a film that has Sean Bean playing a human bee hybrid, Channing Tatum playing a human sort of wolf hybrid, Mila Kunis, the descendant of this person who supposedly runs the universe and was also responsible for the death of the dinosaurs, and Eddie Redmayne just playing some guy who's got bad tonsillitis, then all of a sudden remembers that his tonsils are there and yells a little bit, just to add a bit of oomph to him. It's such a messy film. It tries to add so many different strands. That's the problem with the Wachowskis' movies. They make their movies so complex in story strands that they think that it gives a way to all the negativity and all the badness of their films, when in fact this movie, it just shows so many plot holes that you're just wondering, what the hell is happening? And Mila Kunis falling. I think all she does in the film is fall. That's pretty much her role, is just to fall and look sort of like Kristen Stewart, to be honest. All gooey-eyed up at Channing Tatum going, oh my God, you're a wolf, man. That was her role during the film. It's nonsense. It's not good nonsense neither. And number 3 is Shaun the Sheep, the movie.
I haven't seen it yet. I do want to see it, but you've seen it, so
it'll be interesting to see it, hear your reaction to see it, because I know Mark from Following the Nerd, he didn't like it that much, to be honest, and I was slightly annoyed with that, because I loved it. I thought it was just, it harkened back to the old-fashioned 1910, 1920s black and white, sort of like Felix the Cat. When you first saw Mickey Mouse for the first time, you just got the music rather than any speech, because there's no speech, no dialogue at all in the film. But it is so entertaining. There are so many pop culture gags in there for every age. And the animation, like with all of Aardman's stop-motion animation, claymation stuff, is just beautifully handled. I thought it was really entertaining, and it never overstays its welcome.
That's another one I can't convince my other half to go and see, even though I'm pretty sure she'd like it.
Yeah, it's probably going to...
And that's my other half, sorry, that's my other half who wanted to go and see and liked House of Magic.
Okay, number 2, Kingsman: The Secret Service.
I really, really like this. I know you didn't so much, but I think that's because it plays to the strengths of the Bond films. I mean, because you're not a fan of the Bond films, you're not really into them, but you get that there is that sort of Bond vibe to it. It does reference and kind of spoof them, the Bond films, and especially the older ones, which is it has that kind of quality of the old Bonds that's missing with the new ones. And I just thought it was well done. I enjoyed it. I laughed throughout it and had fun with it. It's a film. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It has some moments in particular, which including the use of A Land of Hope and Glory, in particular, to a moment that brought a riotous laugh throughout the whole cinema, and belly laughs galore. And it's got a weird, twisted sense of humour about it. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I like it. I had fun, and this my other half wants to see, but hasn't had yet a chance to see.
Yeah, I can't believe this. When we were talking about during the news about how Marvel has become the almighty god when it comes to superhero films and stuff like that. But I was paying attention to you, by the way. But while you were waffling on slightly, I was just reading a news story here saying that Sony Pictures and Marvel, obviously, they're working a deal together to bring Spider-Man into the universe. However, Marvel continues their fight with 20th Century Fox and have now forbidden any of the comic writers at Marvel to create any new characters in the X-Men or Fantastic Four universe.
Yeah. No, that's actually a little old news. That was a few months ago that it was basically announced that X-Men is to get no new characters, and Fantastic Four have actually been killed off.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's childish.
It's them basically just trying to make sure that they don't give Fox any new material.
Let's throw the toys out of the pram. And at number 1 in the UK box office top 10 is Big Hero 6.
Which, believe it or not, I still haven't seen, and I really want to see.
Really?
It. Yep. Even though it had numerous preview screenings over something like 4 occasions before it was released, and then it's been out a week. I've just not had time, and I want to see it. I really want to see it.
Tell you what, ignore Shaun the Sheep and watch Big Hero 6.
If I get a day, I'll be having like a day where I'm at the cinema and I'm just going to see kids' films.
Yeah, because Big Hero, I think you'll actually quite like Big Hero 6, to be honest. It has its... I just love Baymax. Baymax is a brilliantly created character. It has its few problems, but I've sort of forgiven him. I've seen it twice. So I've seen a film twice which haven't seen yet.
Is it worth seeing in 3D? Have you seen the 3D?
I haven't. I've only seen it both times in 2D. But it's I would say see it in 2D because of the vibrance of San Francisco. It's just a brilliantly realised amalgamation of Tokyo and San Francisco. But Baymax and the hairy baby scene, even thinking about that scene, it still has me in stitches. So yeah, that's your homework for next week. You have to watch Big Hero 6, whether you want to or not.
I shall try.
No, you will. Force you at gunpoint. You have to watch Big Hero 6, and Kat has to sit through the first Aliens film. She has to sit through it all. You have to force her to do that. Right. Yes, it's that time. We are going to find out what Andrew thought of 50 Shades of Grey.
Okay, well, before I go into it, I'm going to say about the fact of I haven't read the books. No idea what the book's like. I only just actually found out from my other half, who has read the books the other day, that they are... I wasn't aware they're basically fan fiction of the Twilight series, where someone has done fan fiction of Edward Cullen and Bella, and sort of done that, and then they changed events and they changed things and then released it as the books that
actually became... As a matter of fact, she was told to take down the fan fiction that she created on the message boards of the Twilight series, that because it was just too racy. And the creator of the Twilight series has not read them, the 50 Shades of Grey, because she turned around in an interview and said that they're not my kind of film, my kind of book.
Okay.
By the way, I have actually seen 50 Shades of Grey myself as well.
Okay. It's a thing of that there's been obviously this thing of that they were looking at Charlie Hunnam was cast in the role of Christian Grey, and then eventually left the project due to, we don't know for sure, but due to scheduling issues, they were saying, although then others were saying he kind of balked at the whole thing of the nudity and such that was involved in it. And it's rated 18 because obviously it is a very graphic film. It contained a lot of sexual content. In fact, the thing I found quite amazing is when the film started, the 18 BBFC thing came up on the screen. And normally you get, frequent uses of this, blah, 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 blah. You get a description on the screen, tells you a lot of things. It just says strong sex. That's all it says.
Sorry to interject again, but you know what the rating certificate of it is in France?
I have no idea. It's probably banned or something.
15.
15. Well,
it's
the
15.
French and European are a lot more liberal with sort of sexual content in films.
It's because in France they only have an age-rated certificate up to 15, After that, any adult film can just be passed without it need to go into their film classification company. So if a film is, like, for instance, you've seen some of the really, like, over-the-top, gory French films, and there's sort of like the wave of these hardcore French films. They just got cinema runs perfectly fine, no problem.
Well, I mean, I mean, that is like because especially France, of all European countries, but in particular France, has a lot more broad, open sort of opinion towards sexual content and sex in general than
they're rude people, in other words.
No, they're just very.
They're rude. They're just into their kink.
No. But it is obviously the story that is centering around the two characters of you have Anastasia Steele, played by Dakota Johnson, and Christian Grey, played by Jamie Dornan. She is sent in place of her sort of roommate Kate that she's with at university and or college rather, and her roommate is not well, who is doing a sort of a story piece for the college paper about Christian Grey. Is got an interview set up but isn't able to go, so sends Anastasia in her place, who turns up in the interview very nervous, very not sort of sure about herself there and confident, and starts interviewing Christian Grey, who seems to take a bit of an interest to her. Here's a clip.
Earlier you said that there are some people who know you well. Why do I get the feeling that that is not true?
Mr. Grey, your next meeting is in the conference room.
Cancel, please. We're not finished here.
Yes, sir.
No, I can go. It's fine.
I would like to know more about you.
There's really not much to know about me.
You said you're an English major? Tell me, was it Charlotte Bronte, Jane Austen, or Thomas Hardy who first made you fall in love with literature?
Hardy.
I would have guessed Jane Austen. What are your plans after you graduate?
I'm just trying to get through finals right now.
And then?
And then I was planning on moving here to Seattle with Kate.
We offer an excellent internship program.
I don't think I'd fit in here. Look at me.
I am.
So, things from then onwards take a bit of a more intimate turn as he then pursues her, ultimately then convincing her to come along, and he offers her this non-disclosure agreement. The reason being that he wants to have her basically be the sub. I keep thinking, what's the right word? The sub. I can't think of the right word. What is it? Dominant and
subversive.
Is it not subversive? I'm completely forgot the word. But he wants to be basically to have her be the subversive to his dominant person, basically in a sort of weird sexual relationship, which isn't the typical norm boyfriend girlfriend thing, as he explains to her. It's just not how he is. It's just not works for him. He sort of and then pursues her as she sort of questions over this and wonders whether or not this is sort of the thing that's good for her, right for her. And part of it is the whole thing of the submissive. Sorry, I was trying to think what it was.
Yeah,
the dominant
I was thinking
and submissive. Yeah, the dominant sort of as part of the whole thing kind of gets sexual kinks out of inflicting pain on the submissive, and. I mean, there's not much more to it than that. It does have very little in the way of story. And the thing is, though, it's not a great film, but I don't think it's a terrible film as it has been made out to be. You'll probably have a different view of me in that, but I'm going to explain that in the situation why. Because afterwards, my other half was with me. She's read the books. She absolutely hated the film with a passion. Really, really disliked it. Thought it was boring, couldn't stand it, and was glad it was over. I didn't dislike it as much. I don't know that I'd say I even dislike it. I'm not saying I liked it. I'm kind of in the middle between the two, because it's the whole thing of I think that it's been blown way out of proportion in the hype, and the whole thing of it being sexting and being given an 18 rating, the big massive sales because of the book and all, and the book being particularly graphic detail. From my other half, I understand it's not a especially faithful adaptation to the book in either the story, things that do happen, events that do happen, or also in the graphicness of the sexual scenes, because there are a few strong sex scenes in the film, but the thing is, they're not anything that has been done. There's not anything that hasn't been done before, sort of, in film. I mean, thinking back to things like Basic Instinct has sexual scenes that are a lot more racier and pulse-raising than this. There's scenes in particular, I was reminded of things, a terrible film with Bruce Willis in it called Colour of Night, which is a horrible, awful film. It's basically just low quality porn. And this film has sex scenes and things in it which are longer and slower and sort of try to be more detailed but not give away too much detail, and they're less graphic than that film, and that film's terrible. The thing is that's different is that those two films, Basic Instinct and Colour of Night, were sort of sexual erotic thrillers. There's no thriller aspect to this. This is a sexual erotic drama, only it's not particularly sexual, it's not particularly erotic. The scenes are sexual. The thing is that people will be hugely disappointed. The female audience, I'm sure, that are going to it and thinking, oh, it's going to be, something like the book, it's going to be racy, it's going to be a thing. They're going to come out extremely disappointed, as my other half did, because one, it's not particularly racy. The erotic scenes aren't erotic. There's no point in any of the scenes where I genuinely was thinking this is actually quite racy. I'm quite nervous of it. You get that effect when you're watching anything like that. Never happened in this film. Genuinely never happened in this film. Pulse did not raise at all. Not what you want to expect. Not what you expect from a film which has had the hype and everything like that. So it's completely been overhyped, which has meant that it's a terrible film. But it's not as terrible as I think everyone's making it out to be. I think it definitely has problems. I think it's got big lack of story problems. I think it's got big style over actual content, and I think that some of the scenes and the dialogue, the way that it's done, and the performances in the film are clunky as hell. But I don't want to sound like I'm defending it, but I kind of am, because I think it's getting a raw deal just purely on the hype.
See, the problem with the film, in my opinion, is putting to one side the hype, is the movie is being made in such a messy fashion. It feels more like a sexual comedy rather than a drama of any kind of sort, because when any of this sexual tension happens, when they're speaking to each other even for the first time, or there's sort of like him laying out the ground rules about what he expects from her in this kind of contractual relationship, the fact that she has to sign a contract before they go technically any further, and then him realising in a way that he's fallen in love and becoming sort of like mushy and peeling away at the onion that is himself, supposedly having this really tough exterior, but inside he's more like a Kinder egg. It's just ridiculous the way it plays out.
I like that as a good explanation.
It feels more like watching a Carry On film, like Carry On Emmanuel, or these Confessions of a Window Cleaner movies. It feels a lot more like that. These bawdy sex comedies that were more relevant in British culture in the 70s, because it just did not know where the tone was. Its drama just didn't exist. The sexual tension between them just was non-existent whatsoever. When they do finally get to any kind of bondage or anything like that, using any kind of stuff, it doesn't even get past any kind of extremities in any area whatsoever. You look at films like Secretary, where it fully explores that, but there is a proper tension between both characters, because in a way she's enjoying what's happening and he is pushing the boundaries of... James Spader is known for playing very risky characters in anything that he does, and he does that with such malevolence but believability, whereas none of the characters in this film at all, you believed in what they were doing. You believed at first that she was a really shy character, but him being able to bring out this sexual lion in her by performing these acts on her, and then him sort of like, the most he practically does is tickle her. it is ridiculous. I found myself laughing at the film, just in pity, rather than me going, yeah, this is well made. It's just the hype has killed the film, but it's the film that's killed the film as well. The way the film is actually handled has killed the film.
I would agree with that. I mean, also the fact you're saying about laughing during the film, the audience from the saw were giggling at parts throughout it. Genuinely, where it was not expecting it. It was not trying. There were parts where it was trying to get a laugh. There's in particular, I think, there's one scene in it that I liked that I thought is fairly well written and genuinely well done, and that's the scene where there's sort of negotiation over the contract of what is acceptable and what is not in the relationship, and that I thought was a good scene and got laughs intentionally. The rest of the film, though, got laughs throughout it that weren't intentional, and also there was in particular one scene where I was sitting there and I had to actually restrain myself from bursting out laughing really quite loudly because I was really just at the scene that was going on, and it was just really quite not terrible, but it was just really quite sort of distractingly obvious that it was just, you know, not getting the tone that they were trying to get, and it was just completely misjudged for certain bits. And I don't get how there's some scenes in it which seem like they know what they're doing, and then there's complete other scenes which feel totally as if they were handling it with a sledgehammer when they should have been handling it with a little fine hammer, you know, a little fine pin or something. And you know, the approach to it was all wrong.
Before I go on to the next review, the way I look at it is the way the audience acted anywhere when watching the film was very much like when you had sex education for the first time in school. You sort of like giggled at looking at the things on screen, and you sort of like just giggling at the things that happen on screen with 50 Shades of Grey. It is just a sex education lesson, but even done even more cheesier than what you would expect from the sex education stuff that was shown on the BBC in the 1990s, 80s and 90s.
Yeah, I mean, so just think about, you were saying about things like Secretary. Don't bother seeing 50 Shades of Grey. See Secretary. If you want to see something that's about the whole thing of that topic, see Secretary. If you want to see something that's a sexy, erotic thriller, go back and watch Basic Instinct.
Yeah, stuff like that. It's just any kind of film that's features around about sex, but it's got sort of like bondage in it. Look at movies like Bound, even Showgirls, for God's sakes, is a better film. And that's saying something. Right, Two Night Standing. It's directed by Max Nichols, and it stars Annalie Tipton and Miles Teller, who plays both Megan and Alec, and they have had a one-night stand. It didn't go very well at all. The turmoil between both of the characters is really bad after this one-night stand. She's regretting what she's actually done with Alec. She actually thinks he's a bit of a weirdo, and what the hell was she doing? And so she decides to try and leave his apartment. However, the worst storm ever to hit America is actually hit just at that perfect moment. And so she's locked into his apartment. It's completely white out outside. And so for a couple of days, they have to sort of like live with each other and come to terms with each other. And here's a clip which explains what they decide to do over those couple of days.
I just had a great idea. Do you feel it? The two of us? It's a pretty good opportunity right now.
What is?
This. Right here. You don't get it? Okay, look. Listen to me. So we're trapped. We're like this incredible experiment right now. We're lab rats. We've had sex, but we don't have feelings for each other, right? And as soon as that snow clears, you're gone.
Big Mexico gone.
We don't know any of the same people, so we're probably never going to see each other again.
Yes.
So we can use this time to be honest with each other, and we can give each other advice and constructive criticism to make each other better lovers for the next person that comes along.
Okay, firstly, you cannot pull off the word lovers.
I think I can.
Secondly, what you are proposing is potentially, it's a horrible, it sucks, it's a bad idea, what?
Are you kidding me? This is the best idea I've ever had.
That's so sad.
And that is pretty much the premise of the film. It just explores what would happen if you're locked in an apartment with somebody who you had a one-night stand with for a couple of days. What would you do? Would you try to be friends with them? Would you try to help each other out? And that clip there explained what they ultimately choose to do. And See, the film. The problem with the film is if you take both Miles Teller and Annalee Tipton out of the picture and give the characters to somebody else, it would have just been a very humdrum, boring film. And they just alleviate the film slightly. The chemistry between them both is fine. The acting isn't anything special, and that sort of sums up the film. It isn't anything special. It's another one of these relationship comedies where people learn their mistakes and how to better themselves, and a few little goofy things happen, and then they ultimately see the best in each other, and blah-de-blah-de-blah. It's just by the books, ticky box kind of romantic comedy fare where you get some rowdy sex jokes in there just to make it a 15, just to make it look a little bit like it's for the teenage market, and it's passable. And that's the best thing I can say about the film. It's passable. It isn't anything special. It's not going to make you go, oh, this is awful. But it's not going to make you go, I want to go and see this again.
Have you seen the other film which Miles Teller appeared in? Similar kind of thing of drama around sort of relationships and stuff. That Awkward Moment.
I was supposed to have reviewed that for DVD, but I never got to see it, so I haven't seen it.
So you haven't seen it since? Okay, I'm kind of curious because I'm curious how this is kind of in relation to that, because it almost sounds like it could actually be the same character from that film, just in his own little sort of split off moment from it. So it sounds as if he's playing very sort of similar to what he's played before. I mean, obviously now we've seen him in things like Whiplash. He's a very good actor. He's actually in the next upcoming the reboot of Fantastic Four. So he's definitely showing promise as being a good actor, and it's a question of, is it worth it in this film?
No, because I think this was just one of those side projects. Like he did Whiplash, and then I'm guessing he did this right about the same time, because they're very easy films to shoot. Whiplash is where all of his power and his character actually come into it with his acting as well. He had to inject a lot into that character. And so you can understand when an actor puts so much into one character that their next film they need to calm things down a little bit, need to take it a little bit easy. And so this is what he's done with this one, because he knows that his next film with Fantastic Four, it's going to be another one of those movies where there is a lot that he's going to have to put into his character. There is a lot he's going to have to do. And so if you've got a very simple premise where it's just you and another actress in an apartment for nearly the due course of the film itself, it's an easy project to take on, and you sort of like let actors like that, give them the benefit of the doubt when they do that, as long as it's not they do it all the time like we see Liam Neeson do now. He's fallen into the same territory over and over again, so it's fine for them to do that. It's just a very sort of like sidestep kind of film.
Okay, I'm going to go on to then the final cinema release this week we're covering, which is Love is Strange. It is a small indie film with you have the two main characters in the film, John Lithgow and Alfred Molina, play a gay couple who have been together for years. They do finally get married, as it's now been allowed in the city where they live. I can't remember where it is. I think it might be Los Angeles, but they get married. The issue with that is that Alfred Molina's character has been a teacher at a school for some time. It's quite a religiously run school, and as a result of that, him being married, despite them knowing that he was openly gay, the fact of him being married and having sort of defied that issue of the issue of church and marriage not being sort of supportive of gay marriage, ends up losing his job. The issue then is that the fact of the two characters then find themselves in a situation where they aren't able to sort of sustain themselves. They have to look at doing certain things to sort of get by, including ultimately selling their apartment. Here's a clip.
Now, we invited you all here today because, well, your family.
Are you telling us you're getting divorced already?
That's what I thought too.
No. We have to sell the apartment. And we found a buyer already. So pretty soon, we're going to have to move out. Now, it won't be long before I get another job, and it shouldn't be long before we find another apartment, but in the meantime...
It's just a transition phase, probably just a week or two.
We need a place to stay.
Wait a minute. Did I miss something here? These last weeks have been tough on us, Elliot. Losing the job, looking for health insurance. We need a breather.
Yeah, believe me, moving out of here is the last thing we want to do.
It's only temporary. We'll find a new place. Very soon.
And what happens, and ultimately it's not a couple of weeks, it ends up almost sort of becoming a permanent situation. What happens is the two of them have to then sort of move between their sort of friends and families that they have, being able to sort of stay in with them, but obviously not being able to stay together, have to stay separately with their friends, and only can sort of see each other when they're out or, you know, visiting and such. It's a film that focuses on the issues of that, and but more on the fact of how it affects them, how it affects the people they're staying with, the families. You have the sort of issue that the character of John Lithgow is there. He's sort of the older of the two, struggles a little bit with some things, and also has problems where sort of he's staying with a family in their apartment, who doesn't really have much room. They don't have any sort of privacy between the rooms. He has to sort of be moved around between the rooms when someone else needs privacy for doing something or working on something, and it shows then also how that works and has effects on the family as well, who are struggling for being able to have, you know, the husband and wife of that they're staying with at one point, having been able to have sort of intimate moments such when he's around and can't really go anywhere else. And it's a good drama that focuses on the whole thing of the relationships and how when you sort of throw a curveball into it, and you know, it starts to affect people and they struggle, and how they try and overcome it, and how they necessarily do or don't, and how it sort of all takes a toll. And it's down to the fact that it's got great performances from the two leads, from John Lithgow and Alfred Molina, who also, Alfred Molina's character is questioning his faith, and also dealing with the whole thing of that he's a teacher who doesn't want to leave his students but has to, and is looking at other things he's trying to do, and trying to do other sort of teaching options that are available, and while also still trying to, you know, see and be with his husband, and again taking its toll on him. So it's a great drama. Again, one of these films filled with great performances, but it has some really good sort of moments and dramatic scenes that are quite sort of gut punching to it, and quite sort of draining, but still a very, very good drama.
Yeah, well, sorry, that's my phone there. That is really bad timing, that, isn't it? My phone deciding to go off.
Yeah, especially when we were just about to go into an ad as well. You would have had like a minute during which it could have gone off.
30 seconds actually in your ad. But the worst thing is my ringtone is pretty dodgy, let's just say. So I'm sort of glad that the microphone didn't pick it up.
Anyone out there listening live, please call Stuart's phone right now.
Yeah, you don't want to hear screaming and swearing, to be honest. I love the ringtone, but that's my ringtone, not movies. That's it for the cinema section of the show. We're back in a moment with the Blu Ray and DVD section of the show.
It's a good way to prove we're live, so we can do that.
It is.
There was a real sense of you were doing something wrong, but that did give it that feeling of excitement.
When the reveal of the film happens, that's when it just becomes absurd.
And the atmosphere and just the sense you get whenever you go into it is undeniable.
It did absolutely zero for me, which could be for the hype.
What we've just discussed there is just scratching the surface on it.
Hi, I'm Eric England, the director of Contracted, and you're listening to From Page to Screen, the horror show.
And we're back with this week's DVD and Blu-ray section. That was an ad there for the From Page to Screen movies horror show, which Stuart, as you heard in the clip, is an active participant in most shows, most episodes. Yeah.
Nicely edited as well.
It is a very nicely edited one. We've had that same ad for absolutely ages, and finally we've been able to get a different ad. So that
best thing is
the first time it's been played.
There is another ad, so we'll be chopping and changing each week between two. We want more. We want more adverts.
Yeah, feel free to send them to us. You know, contact us. MondayMovieShow@yahoo.com. Maybe get your advert put on the show. We need to put one together as well. We will get time. Just don't have time at the moment. But anyway, carrying on with this film, with this week's show, we've got these DVDs and Blu-rays to go through.
Jennifer Kent's directorial horror debut with The Babadook. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles hit us on the big screen. We have Disney sequel with Dolphin Tale 2. Absolutely gorgeous animated film with A Book of Life. one of the longest titled films ever to be created, Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. We have a small thriller drama with The Calling, and then to end things, we have a movie that made even my head scratch, with Coherence.
Yep, and as always, we'll finish up with a look at some TV movies of the week, and an our movie of the week. But before that, let's go into the DVD and Blu Ray top 10, starting at number 10 with Lucy.
It's a fine film. Luc Besson, he's done movies where they haven't turned out very good at all, to be honest. And when Luc Besson makes a fun brain dead movie, he makes an entertaining fun brain dead movie, and that's what this is. It tries to be intelligent, but you can see through all of that.
Number 9 is The Box Trolls.
I love The Box Trolls. It's grimy, it's gooey, it's all that kind of thing. It's got a proper evil, nasty bad guy in the movie. The animation, the stop motion animation, is just sumptuous to look at. The voice acting is fantastic as well.
And number 8 is The Grand Budapest Hotel.
We said absolutely everything about we can about the Grand Budapest Hotel. The cinematography, I loved it. I loved the style of the film, the way it looks. And Paul Thomas Anderson,
Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson. Why was the thing Paul Thomas Anderson? Interesting if this was directed by him, wouldn't it? But directed by Wes Anderson, he has a knack of creating stylistic films. Also, he has a knack of creating stylistic films that have got proper content to match the style.
Number 7 is A Walk Among the Tombstones.
Absolute dire film. It is really bad. It's a movie that's trying to be very grown up, and it just feels.
I don't entirely agree. Number 6 is a double pack release of The Maze Runner and Percy Jackson, which we'll get to one of those.
Well, Percy Jackson, it's the first one, so it is the better of the two evils, because Percy Jackson, the first one, is an entertaining sort of like kids film. It reminds you a little bit of the Ray Harryhausen, like Clash of the Titans kind of movies, how entertaining those are, and it has that feel to it. It's just the sequel, Sea of Monsters, which is awful.
Yeah, a surprising pairing up of those two films there, I think.
It's an interesting coupling.
At number 5 is a new entry for The Best of Me.
I haven't seen it.
You didn't see it? No, it's a film which is that kind of weird thing that I forget the names. It's Sparks. Nicholas Sparks, novel of that you have a sort of a weird, mysterious sort of magical thing happening, and then these two characters meet, and there's the thing of will they, won't they fall in love, and it has that all over it, written all over it, and just obviously, and not in a good way. At number 4 is The Equalizer.
Has a decent enough opening 15 minutes, and then after that it just throws it down the pan. It just becomes another really badly executed film, and that's not meant to be a pun at all, considering what the film's about. It's just really badly handled on every front.
Dropping down from last week's number 1 to number 3 is Gone Girl.
The only problem I had with Gone Girl is exactly the same problem I had with The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, in the fact that David Fincher does not know when to end these films. It's sort of like the same problem Alex Garland had with Ex Machina. The film should have ended 20-25 minutes earlier. He just goes on and on and on. You think to yourself, just reel yourself back a little bit for once. And he does that with Gone Girl. Apart from that, though, the film itself is a brilliant watch. Just try to avoid spoilers.
Yes, absolutely. New entry at number 2 for The Maze Runner.
Entertaining film, doesn't do anything special, but what it does do, it passes the hour and a half running time that it's on for pretty fine. It's got some nice, decent set pieces. The maze is the interesting part of the film, and when it finally gets into the maze, that's when the movie comes alive a little bit. That's when all the action happens. But before that, you've got a very Lord of the Flies-esque film, and it's nice to actually see that. It's fine for what it is.
Yeah, it's very good for the set itself as a character. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which means that the new number 1 this week on DVD and Blu Ray is Dracula Untold.
Not as bad as I thought it would be, but you're obviously going to get some cheesiness in the movie, and that comes in the form of Dominic Cooper. His character is just really ridiculous, very over the top, but I think he understands that. It's it's got its griminess to it, it's got its darkness to it, but this is supposed to be the untold story of Dracula, yet when I was watching it, I was going, I knew that, and I definitely knew that. So this is definitely not the untold story of Dracula, because everything that's happened in this film happens practically in most Dracula movies anyway.
Yeah, I quite like it, but it has got that. It has got that kind of feel. Yeah, it's got that kind of feel like the Stephen Sommers Mummy films of Dracula. It loses something being aimed at a 12A audience.
It's sort of it's a 15 actually.
Is it 15? Oh, it's 12 in the cinema, I think, wasn't it?
15 in the cinema also.
Was it? Okay.
So very much like the Mummy, because the first Mummy film, when it was released on DVD, was rated 15. Yeah. So it's very much It's very much like the first Mummy. I really hope that the sequel to this isn't very much like the Mummy 2.
Yeah, with badly CGI'd Dwayne Johnson in it as well. Yeah,
and the horrible monkeys.
Yeah. Anyway, we are 75 minutes into this week's show, so let's kick on with our first DVD review.
Yeah, the Babadook. I've got the voice to actually be able to do it, but if I actually did the Babadook's noise, I would really kill my voice. So I'm not going to even attempt it. But the Babadook, it's directed by Australian director Jennifer Kent. It's based on a short story of hers, which is very similar to the Babadook, very much like Mama. When Andres Muschietti did Mama, he's created a 2-minute short, but he interleaved that into the film itself. Jennifer Kent hasn't done that with this film, but she's took little elements of the short story that she did. And the Babadook centres around mother, Amelia, and her son, Samuel. And she's lost her husband, Samuel's lost her father. Actually, when Amelia is going to give birth to Samuel, there's a car accident and he loses his father and she loses her husband. And the family life isn't normal, to be honest. Samuel's a very destructive character in a way. He's a character he's got very few friends. He doesn't get on very well with kids at school. He's always daydreaming. He's not interested in anything that people try to say. His mother, she's trying to put up with him and also have a normal life by having a job working in a hospital. And unfortunately, that starts to unravel more and more when Samuel's behaviour gets a bit more over the top. And one night, during the time when she's reading a bedtime story to Samuel, they discover a book called The Babadook. And she reads this, and Samuel gets scared, and that's when he starts to just go majorly downhill, because he believes that this character in the book, The Babadook, is real, and that it's coming to kill him, and also his mother. Here's a clip giving you a feel of what The Babadook's like.
Her nose is broken in 2 places. She's going to need surgery.
I'll pay for everything.
Can't even pay your own bills. Look, I really have to go.
Claire, I think someone is stalking me and Samuel.
What?
A book turned up at our place. I threw it away, but somebody glued it back together and put it on our doorstep.
Amelia, I just can't help you right now.
I don't expect you to help. I just want to...
If you're that worried, you should go to the police. I've got to go.
Claire. Hello?
Now, the thing with the Babadook is it had that problem where a lot of movies normally suffer from. When critics big them up, it did brilliantly when it was going through the film circuit. So when it was going through Cannes and all Fantastic Fest and South by Southwest and all these big, huge, massive movie conventions. And word was that this is the next step in horror. This director, she's the next big thing, and you get majorly worried when that happens, and most of the time they never live up to the hype. There's a film out at the end of the month which is going through the same process as the Babadook. You can hear a rattling there, by the way. It's a suite that I'm on, so I don't cough a lot. But it's called It Follows, and that's out on the 28th, and that's getting, like I said, a lot of this critical acclaim that it is the next Babadook. And the Babadook definitely deserved the praise, because even though the film itself is not scary, I didn't jump, at all during the movie. But, God, I felt tension. The movie is just awash with tension. I think it's down to the way Jennifer Kent actually shot the film. The film has got very little colour into it. All of the happiness of the movie is being sucked completely out of it. But that's more so over the film. At the start of the film, you've got little bursts of colour here and there, and like flowers that you might see and things like that. But that starts to disappear the more Samuel gets obsessed with this Babadook character, the more the Babadook sort of like appears. That's when all the colour and all of the life gets sucked out of the movie, and she handles that brilliantly, Jennifer Kent. I think Essie Davis, who plays Amelia, and Noah Wiseman, who plays Samuel, the movie's on their shoulders and about how fractured their mother-son relationship is, and they handle it with such aplomb that you believe them to be mother and son, and you believe that the Babadook exists, and that's what you want from a movie like this. You want to feel really tense, not scared, because there isn't any scary elements. It doesn't go down the route where you're expecting it to be quiet and then all of a sudden the Babadook is just going to pop out and go cooey. You're not going to get any of that kind of stuff at all.
I'm just having this vision now of a horror film where it's something, the horror thing actually comes out and goes cooey.
Yeah, it's like a Jack in the Box moment. Ding, 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 pop. You're not going to get that at all in the Babadook. So if that's what you're expecting, then, and if that's what you want, then just avoid it. But if you want a movie where it'll make the hairs on your arms stand on end and make goosebumps pop up so much so you look like a piece of popcorn, then please watch it, because the Babadook is, or was, the best horror film of 2014.
Interesting. I still haven't watched it because I don't like horror, but it does interest me to see, because it's not... The thing I don't like about the horror films, I don't like the sudden jumps.
It doesn't have that. It's creepy horror, not jumpy horror.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things. It's like the Blair Witch Project is a creepy horror film. It doesn't have jumps and scary moments in it, but it's like you watch it and then you go to bed and then you're like, no, I'm going to bed with the light on, because it freaks you out in your head.
That's what it's very much like. It's very much like the Blair Witch Project, or what Ty West's movies are. Okay. It's very much like things like Frozen, Innkeepers, not Frozen as in the Let It Go one, Frozen, Innkeepers, things like that. It's very much like that kind of film. Okay.
I might try and watch it if I get a chance when I have time, but it'll probably be about 2 years' time or something before I do that.
Probably.
Okay, moving on to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the big screen remake of, well, sort of reboot of the live action version of the Turtles, which if you don't know from before, they were brought to the screen in live action form in the 90s. They were done with prosthetics and people walking around in suits and rubber things and everything, and it was all sort of cutesy a bit, and you know, that kind of thing. It was a small budget film, actually. It wasn't a big budget film like this. This, on the other hand, is a big special effects thing. It has the Turtles are themselves CGI characters. It is produced by Michael Bay, so be aware of that before you get in. Though not directed by him, instead directed by Jonathan Lieberman. You have in there the main character of April O'Neil, played by Megan Fox, who is a wannabe reporter. She's sort of very young, early in her career, ends up sort of being the person who goes out and sent out to do these sort of filler pieces where they're just out filming something, you know, like in a scene at the early on, she's sent out with a cameraman to film a thing about people jogging out in New York City, and she's completely bored with this, looking to get sort of something big that will break her into the news industry. She follows these rumours and things to do with the Foot Clan, a sort of gang of people that are sort of going through doing all sort of criminal activity all over New York, including a sort of an attack on the subway of people, which is thwarted and stopped, sort of, but not really seen by who. She, though, follows the people that are involved in stopping them, finding them on a roof without them being aware that she is there. Here's a clip.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about, brothers. Like shadows in the night, completely unseen.
We know it's a camera flash.
Who's behind the camera flash?
By my calculations, it's a girl. And we gotta kill her. What? With kindness, get us powers our trust.
I got this.
No, no, no!
Give me the camera.
Look, he's doing his Batman voice.
So, that gives you sort of an idea of the setup of it. She ends up sort of befriending them and helping them, and there's this sort of thing going on with a character played by William Finch, who's sort of involved in nefarious sort of deeds that are going on. She's then sort of introduced to them and also to their master Splinter, the also a sort of mutated form of a rat. The turtles are full-size human rats. Full-size human-size sort of turtles. Splinter is a full-size rat who has trained them and raised them as their father and the ways of martial arts. It is a ridiculous thing. If you've not heard of it, not known about it, it's based on the cartoons from the 80s and 90s and then the films and such. It's a big budget blockbuster popcorn film. It doesn't have much of a script, doesn't have much of anything like good dialogue or anything, but the thing that's odd about it is that despite it also having lots of Michael Bay-isms, if you don't know what Michael Bay-isms are, watch Transformers 1 through 4 and then you have an idea. And it's full of moments like that. Everything in those films that were completely leery and unnecessary and disgusting, that you think, oh, they're maybe specific to those films, are not. They're just specific to Michael Bay now. But it's kind of a little bit held back. And the odd thing is, it actually is a not brilliantly but fun film. It has moments that are good, has a nice great big action set piece in the middle of it involving a truck going down a hill, which genuinely was like, oh okay, I'm watching this, I'm getting into this bit, I'm enjoying this bit. But it's completely brainless, dumb fun. Not bad, not terrible, not brilliant, but just okay.
Yeah, okay is probably the best we can actually give the film, because it is stupidly stupid. It's completely brain dead. It's like the turtles have been dropped on their heads when they were grown up by, they were raised by Splinter. I think he multiply dropped them on their heads constantly. And none of their characters has actually changed at all. None of them evolved at all from when they were originally, what they were originally like, to what they are now. When the set piece, which involves them getting chased in the snow, that's very well handled. It's nicely handled. It suffers the typical thing of slow-mo just to add impact onto the film, when in fact it just makes you go, please actually just get on with it. But it follows, it is that tick box mechanism that one normally expect from anything that's directed by or produced by Michael Bay, because we know he produced this one, Jonathan Liebesman. He directed it. This, I think, is the second or third film that Bay and Liebesman have been both involved with it. But it's just, it could have been much worse.
Yeah, it's disappointing that it's not better, but it's not disappointing that it's in a way that it's worse.
Yeah, it could have been. It could have.
It could have been so much worse. It could have been horrible.
Yep. Right. Next up, even though Andrew was supposed to review this.
Yeah. Didn't have time. Sorry.
Oh, time. Really?
I was away at the weekend.
Oh, you poor diddums, you. Dolphin Tale 2, directed by Charles Martin Smith. It's a sequel to Jaws. Dolphin Tale. That would have been a really interesting one. And it follows several years after the first film. I've not seen the first film, so I didn't know what the first film was like. Ironically, you have.
Yeah. I just want to see the second one, because the first one was fun. It was typical Disney. You know, it was okay.
Yeah, and so it follows the story of Winter the Dolphin in the first film. Something wrong with its fin. A prosthetic fin is actually being created for it. It lives with its mother in sort of like this place which looks after injured dolphins. Unfortunately, its mother passes away, and they're trying really hard to look for somebody to go with Winter. However, Winter keeps on rejecting it, and then the place gets told that they need to find somebody for Winter. If not, they're going to lose Winter. Here's a clip giving you a feel of the film.
What are you doing?
This has gone on long enough.
We are gonna be in so much trouble.
Well, at least we'll know. Come on, Winter. Here she comes.
how longer than you have?
Yeah, like 10 minutes.
You know what I mean. Don't be so pushy. Hey, girl.
Now, here's the thing about Dolphin Tale. It has the same actors from the first film in Morgan Freeman, Ashley Judd, Harry Connick Jr. So it has them returning, and Julie Winter, who plays Peyton in the movie, who's more attached to Winter than anybody else at Clearwater, which is the aquarium where it's at. So they don't try anything different from the first film. Like I said, I've not seen the first film, but by the looks of things, it's a very similar film in premise, and it's a good film. Surprisingly, it's a good film. It never tries to oversteer its welcome. It never tries to go across a line and go into territory that it doesn't belong into. It plods along for the 90 minutes that it's in there. It has enough story in there. It has enough character in there. You definitely want Winter to stay at Clearwater because the people who are looking after them, after all the dolphins or after all the animals at Clearwater, definitely want to keep Winter there. And so it's sort of like a family film where it's just, rather than seeing lots of big explosions and stuff like that, it just wants to take everything at a sedate kind of pace and just enjoy itself, and that's what it is. It's a family fun film. It's sort of like something that's missing from a lot of cinema, because the last film that I saw, which is like Dolphin Tale in kind of tone, was that movie about the dog in Australia.
Red Dog.
Yeah, Red Dog. Because I really, really liked Red Dog. I thought it was a fantastic little film. And Dolphin Tale 2, even though it's not as good as Red Dog, it's sort of like on the same kind of lines.
Okay. So, on to The Book of Life, which is directed by Jorge R. Gutierrez. It's a movie that's an animated film which Guillermo del Toro had a hand in sort of producing and being involved in. But it's a weird thing. It's kind of it looks like it's stop motion, but it's a CG animated film. But it's done with kind of a stop motion sensibility to the characters and the way they move. It's following the character, sort of three characters in it. Who you have these three characters who were introduced to as kids through a story that's being told to kids at a museum, who turn up and are sort of not interested in being there, taken by this woman who takes them into a room and starts telling them the story about this book, The Book of Life, which is basically all of life is made up of stories. You have the whole thing of that. You have these three characters of Manolo, Maria, and Joaquin, who is voiced by Diego Luna, Zoe Saldana, and Channing Tatum. The two boys sort of being interested in the girl, but sort of fighting over her as to who sort of wants her, who can be with her. You have then the sort of the characters of Zabalba and La Muerte, who is sort of the two beings that kind of control the underworld, the afterlife sort of thing. And they have this sort of ongoing sort of battle and wager between the two of them, and added into this is a wager that the fact of that they will both pick one of the two boys, and then whoever of the two of them marries Maria will be the winner, and the winner will then rule the land of the Remembered. Things sort of cut to years later. The two of them are still sort of fighting over as to who's going to win her over, and you have the whole thing of that then Zabalba sort of interferes, even though he's not meant to, resulting in something happening to Manolo, who ends up ultimately arriving in the land of the Forgotten. Here's a clip.
Welcome to the land of the Remembered.
I made it.
And on the Day of the Dead, no less.
Where is...
You're going to be a little disoriented at first. Don't try to take it all in at once. Let's start with your name.
My name is Manolo Sanchez.
Another Sanchez? Man, that family just keeps growing.
My family? They'll help me find Maria. Can you take me to them?
I would love nothing more than to reunite a young couple. Just hold on.
So, here's the thing with The Book of Life. I was watching it and sitting there, and I'm watching it, and I'm looking at it, and finding it, first of all, that I'm not sort of enjoying it, admittedly. Struggling with it a little bit for the first sort of half hour, 40 minutes of it. And I just found it, the animation was good but basic in some ways, and something about it just didn't sit well with me. Then you get to, as I said by accident, the Land of the Forgotten before the clip. It's actually Land of the Remembered, so sorry for that. But then you get to the Land of the Remembered, and the film just suddenly starts popping, and it just hits you, and it's animated brilliantly, and there's humour in it, which was seemingly lacking up to that point, and it looks vibrant and amazing, and I love it. I don't know if it's just intentional that they did that for the bits before, but then the film comes to life, literally. In an odd way, and it's a brilliantly animated film from then onwards. So I had fun with it. I loved it from half an hour 40 minutes in. Up to that point, I genuinely was struggling with it. And I was thinking, I really am not sure why are people going insane over this film, because I think that's an issue. I think it has a problem. I think it takes too long to get going. I think that events in the story that happen should have happened a lot earlier, and then it should have had more time doing what it does in the sort of the last half of it. But once you get to that point, for me, I thought it was brilliant. I loved it. It's almost to the sort of weirdness level of some other animated films like Box Trolls. It reminded me of sort of, especially in the way, the weirdness of the characters and a lot of the sort of physical gags that there are throughout it. But I mean, I had fun with it, but annoyingly, it's that opening half hour, 40 minutes that really, in my opinion, drags the film down to being a little bit disappointing. And I have to say, ultimately, I'm a little bit disappointed with the film, and I'm upset about that because I was really looking forward to it. I loved the trailer. I thought it looked amazing. I was really looking forward to it. Didn't get a chance to see it at the cinema. And now I've seen it, I'm kind of a little bit disappointed that I didn't. I'm a bit happy I didn't see it at the cinema, because I would have felt my time was wasted, I think.
I completely disagree with you, because I loved it. I was captivated from beginning to end. It's just, it had the stylings of Guillermo del Toro, because he's a producer on the film, and it has his feel of it. And I'm quite interested in the Mexican Day of the Dead and all that, the way they handled things. And I thought the way they built up the story to lead to the Land of the Remembered and the Land of the Forgotten, and how things turn out with each one of them, as when one of the characters gets bitten by the snake, and that's when the bet starts to fully unfurl. And I just thought the film, all the way through it, the animation was just beautifully handled. I loved this sort of like marionette animation, and it's a difficult thing to pull off.
It is. I mean, the characters, as you're saying, the marionette is the perfect. It's the way they're designed. They look like walking, talking marionettes. That's one thing. It looks, that design of it looks good. I just didn't find the animation for me sold me on it. I struggled with the design of some of the characters. Some of them were, I found a bit sort of too out there for, and it's definitely, you can see Guillermo del Toro's influence on it. But I just thought it was a bit sometimes too much for it, and it put me off. It really put me off.
I wanted more. And by the way, people, go out and check the new trailer for Crimson Peak. Oh, I cannot wait for that movie. Guillermo del Toro's latest one out in October. It's him sort of like going back to his old-fashioned style roots. So please watch that trailer. It looks awesome. Next up, Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. It's directed by Miguel Arteta, and it stars Steve Carell and Jennifer Garner. They play mother and father to son Alexander, who's played by Ed Oxenbould. And he's 12-year-old, and unfortunately his family around him keep on constantly having really good days. Good things happen to his family. His sister, she's getting a part as playing Peter Pan in the play. His older brother, he's going out with his one of the more upper girls at school, and he's getting ready to take her to junior prom. The father, he's sort of like a stay-at-home mom / dad, but he gets a job interview at this video game company, and so that's starting to look up for him. His mother, she's working on this book, and so everything's going really well for them, apart from Alexander. Everything bad happens to him. He's constantly having a really bad day. And so just before his 12th birthday, he decides to make a wish on that he wants his family to experience exactly what he goes through. And so lo and behold, the next year, that's exactly what happens. Everything starts to go completely wrong for his entire family. Here's a clip.
Emily, just a recommended dosage, please. That stuff's pretty strong.
Hi, guys.
Hey, there's Mama.
Where's my baby green?
Oh, well, things went a little awry today. Look who it is.
Hey, he's green.
I know.
What is this?
It's Marker. It's fine. How did it go? How's it reading?
It was awful. I think I pretty much flushed my career down the potty.
Why? What happened?
Never mind. Can I have the wipes?
Dad. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
I told you this day was cursed.
Sorry.
All right.
Good luck, baby.
Here you go.
Wait, Anthony. Please don't do it today. You're gonna fail.
Alexander, give your brother some space, please.
Yeah, the next time you see this face, it's going to be in my driver's license.
It's not coming off.
Just hurry up. I need to get to my plane.
What kind of a person?
It's not poisonous. I don't think it's poisonous.
So here's the thing with Alexandra and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. The title is more interesting than the film itself. There's nothing overly wrong with the movie, but the best way to look at the film is it reminds you of the Diary of the Wimpy Kid films. It's very much like that. It needs to play to a PG audience, so it needs to have the humour of a PG film. And so it can't go too far over the top. There is one joke which nearly goes to the edge of that, and it's very close to the end of the film. But the film itself plays it safe with the jokes, and that's how it needs to be, because it needs to be a family-friendly movie with jokes supposedly for all the family. It doesn't rely on all these fart jokes that you might expect in a 15-rated film, and it's passable. It passes the time away fine, but that's all it does. It's one of these kind of films where it's very much like when we were describing Into the Woods in the box office top 10. It's forgettable after you watch it. And that's what this is like. It's forgettable after you watch it. You don't mind the company for the 90 minutes that you're in when you're watching the film. But after that, after the time when it's finished, you'll not be going, oh, you remember that scene in the Alexandra film with the long title? You remember it? That's funny, that scene where the door comes off the car when he's doing his driving test. You're never going to remember any of the scenes. The only reason why we do is because, obviously, we're reviewing the films. But it's just forgettable. But it's forgettably good for what it's on for. It's nothing special.
I agree with that mostly. I mean, the things it reminded me of the older Disney films. You know, things like the Parent Trap and the Computer Wore Tennis Shoes. The classic sort of 80s Disney TV films that they were made. They're fun, enjoyable. They're offensive to nobody really. And they have fun, and they do. It's if anything, they're kind of more ticking the box than things like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, in what doing for a family film. But that's okay because that's all they're meant to be, sort of thing. So it's they're just okay and fun.
Yeah, they're fine.
Yeah. Okay, so The Calling, which is directed by Jason Stone, it is based on a novel by Inga Ash-Wolf. It is a small sort of indie film that's following in a small town. You have the local sheriff played by Susan Sarandon. What's wrong with me now? I can't talk. Susan Sarandon. She is kind of the local sheriff of the town who has not had to deal with much there, no problems, nothing sort of regular going on. She's actually suffering a little bit from being sort of a little bit on the side of a sort of a drunk, a functioning alcoholic. And then all of a sudden there are things happening in town, such as there begin to be a series of murders that are found. She's then also dealing with a new sort of deputy who's been brought in who's sort of transferred from somewhere out of town, played by Topher Grace, who's there for sort of unknown reasons. The two of them are working on the case with their sort of department, trying to investigate things, while we're also following this mysterious character who we see going to different people's houses and visiting them along sort of a journey that he's taking that is somehow all connected. Don't have a clip for this, but basically it is a small independent film sort of thing. It doesn't have any big budget things. It's not an action chase film sort of thing. It is a small, tiny kind of B movie, B grade sort of thriller. It has its moments that it's got sort of nice sort of investigative moments, but it does kind of hang around and stick around too much longer than it needs to be. And it's a film that I don't know what the book's like, no idea, but the film is less than 2 hours. It's not an hour and a half, it's longer than that, but it feels as if it's longer. Not necessarily in a good way. You also have a sort of making an appearance in there. Donald Sutherland has a small sort of cameo scene later on as a priest that it's all sort of connected with as well. And it's one of these ones where it's a mystery thriller all the way through it. It just happens that it's a mystery thriller as to why somebody is going along doing these murders, killing people off, and it's nothing exceptional. It could have been a TV movie and it would have been okay. As a cinematic release, not really necessary, but it passes the time, just barely passes the time.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if I saw the film or not. And it shows you how much I was paying attention to the film. And I remember I have actually seen the film. But it's sort of, I agree with you, it's very much a TV movie. If you look at what, say, TV stations like Sky Atlantic are attempting with their programmes like Fortitude, it seems to have a very similar feeling to that. I've not seen it yet, but when you see the trailer of it, it's got the look and feel of The Calling. And I think The Calling would have made a really good 90-minute TV movie, but it doesn't make a good movie.
It probably would have made a good mini-series or something. I mean, they could have added more to it. I'm guessing because it's not based on a book. Generally, you find there's a lot more in a book that doesn't make it into a film, and it feels like maybe there's things they've taken out and run through it, and it could have been maybe a good 2-part sort of thing. But I mean, as it is, it's okay, but just okay.
Right, the final film of the night, Coherence. Now, this is released in selected cinemas as well, but it's also getting a DVD release today. It's directed by James Ward Burkett, and it's shot over the period of 5 days. All the actors, they're given very basic storylines with their characters and very basic dialogue, but they're told to improvise the rest of it. The budget is really small as well. And it centres around 7 friends who, at the start of the film, have a dinner party in one of their friends' house. They're fine, they're enjoying conversation. They decide to tell a few little stories from their past. Then all of a sudden, the power goes out. And then when it comes back on, they discover a box. While all this is happening, a comet is going by their house. And they manage to get into the box, see pictures of themselves with numbers on the back. And then they hear a big loud noise outside and they go to investigate. And see all the power is out apart from these houses down the bottom of their street. They go to investigate it, and they start to discover really strange things are happening. That's all I'm going to say with Coherence. We don't have a clip, and the thing with Coherence is, if you know what Schrodinger's principle is, it refers to if a cat is in a box with a vial of poison, and the box is sealed, you don't know whether the cat is alive or dead. It follows Schrodinger's principle. And the film, it demands you to pay attention to it, because if this is improvised acting, it's done at a high caliber, because the characters, they're constantly at each other, they're constantly asking questions, they're constantly wondering what's going on. The story goes at such a pace that your mind is finding it really difficult to catch up, but there's so many interesting elements and strands happening that you're scratching your brain going, I need to piece this together, I need to piece this together to get this part of the story, that you're sort of like feeling like you're the 8th person at this dinner party. So it's really well acted, it's really well shot. It might make a lot of people nauseated with the way the camera actually flows through the film, because the camera has a life of its own. It's bouncing around constantly, it's moving around constantly, but the frame is always there. It's never out of shot. It never loses any of the action or the turmoil between any of the characters. And obviously, with something like this happening, it breaks down the characters. And when you start bringing in things like wormholes and different universes and parallel universes and doppelgangers and things like that, and you still need to concentrate on the film, then it takes a lot to be able to do that, and a lot to keep the movie to be coherent. And I think it succeeds on that. It has problems with the movie, and it's not brilliant, but it's intellectual enough to keep you interested and hooked.
So it lives up to its title then, Coherence.
No, it doesn't make very much coherence, because it needs to. It relies on the audience to be invested in the film. if you're not invested in the film after the scene where the lights go out and they start to find the pictures in the box, then just switch it off, because from then on in, that's when it starts to become what the hell is happening kind of territory. And that's when it demands you to concentrate.
It sounds a bit like the do you remember the indie film? I don't know if you saw it, Primer.
Yeah, I love Primer.
Yeah, it sounds a bit like that sort of an idea. Sort of, it's a very small film, very big concept.
It's also when films like Cube and Pi get into the intellectual side of things, you think to yourself, this kind of stuff does not belong into films. There's another a French film called Fermat's Room, which is very similar in it's Fermat's Room is about a group of people locked inside of a room, and the walls are coming in slowly but surely, and they've got to discover how to get out of there. This is sort of like, in a way, that it is like Schrodinger's principle, because that's what Fermat's Room is like, and it follows that same thing. But you need to make sure you've got your brain with you when you watch it.
Okay, that's it for this week's show. We hope you've found something in there maybe you'll like. We'll get to a moment and let you know which of those was our movie of the week. Before that, though, we'll go to TV movies of the week. I've only got one. I hope you haven't picked the same one as me.
Yeah, I hope so.
Mine I've picked is on Tuesday night. It's actually something, because when I went to see 50 Shades of Grey, there were trailers before it, obviously tailored to the audience of that, including the upcoming Magic Mike XXL. The original Magic Mike, though, Magic Mike XXL looks a bit more sort of a cross between Magic Mike, the first one, and one of the Step Up movies. But the original one, which is a fantastic good film, a really, really good drama, is being shown on Tuesday night on Film 4 at 11:35 at night. And it's not a film about stripping. It's not just about, I mean, it has scenes of stripping in it, but it's more of just a drama about a character who's doing this job and trying to find his way through life. And very, very well done, I think.
And my TV movie of the week is also on Film 4, but on Wednesday night at 11:45, Rust and Bone. Jacques Audier, and it stars Marion Cotillard and Matthias Schoenaerts, and it's brilliantly acted by Marion Cotillard. She's a fantastic actress, and it just centres around a woman who suffers, she's a wheel trainer, and she suffers an accident and her life starts to unravel, and she hates life, and then starts to get in with the character played by Matthias Schoenaerts, and it honestly is very well acted. It's a brilliant drama. It's a part of Film 4's love and sex season, and it definitely demands to be watched.
Yeah, it is a very good film. I remember when I saw it, I described it as a romantic drama without the romance.
Yeah, it's sort of like
that, yeah.
It's two people who you're hoping get together by the end of the movie, rather than when you watch these romantic dramas, two people that you wish would just break off, and so you don't have to sit through any more of it.
Yeah. So that's it for this week's show. Some shout outs as we normally do. First of all, you can get in touch with us. Let us know what your opinions on the show, any feedback, any suggestions. Email us mondaymovieshow@yahoo.com. You can message us at Monday Movie Show on Twitter. You can get Stuart on there at Cryptic Tadpole. I'm on there at AHDVD. There's also our website, mondaymovieshow.co.uk, which admittedly has not had a lot of things updated on it recently. When we have time, because we've just admittedly been very busy lately.
I'm the only one who puts content on there.
Yeah, I'm saying that, but we'll try and get more things up on there when we can, and I'm hoping to try and get some written reviews done as well. And also you can find us on Facebook, which is just facebook.com/Monday Movie Show. Feel free to also check out some of our friends, as you heard during the show, the advert for Page to Screen, from Page to Screen, who has, I think it's 3 shows at the moment.
I don't know how many.
But you're involved in the horror one. And also followingthenerd.com, who do their show on most Thursday nights, and you normally go through the top 10 on there as well.
Yeah, I'm everywhere.
Yeah, you have more time than I do.
Yeah. I'm a podcast hooer. I didn't want to hear it sort of like in a way tying into 50 Shades. Sort of disturbingly.
You get around quite a bit.
Yes.
Yeah. But also if you can, and you you are willing to, please check out as well the Seren Foundation, which is a charity that we do sort of support, which is just Seren, SEREN Foundation.org.uk. So, as I said, we're about to finish. That's it for this week. We'll end you out with a clip in a moment after our movies of the week.
I just want to say thank you to David and Kat for listening live.
Yes.
So cheers for that. My movie of the week is The Babadook.
The Babadook. I mean, Love is Strange for me. It's not 50 Shades of Grey. So you might have thought it might have been. No, 50 Shades of Grey is not my TV movie of the week. Oh, it's on my movie of the week even. It is Love is Strange. So we're going to play you out with a clip, as always we do. This is an upcoming movie which has not done especially well in America. Comes out here next week, so we'll be reviewing it then. Directed by the great Michael Mann. It is Black Hat. Stars Liam Hemsworth as Chris Hemsworth. Even I always get the two of them mixed up. Chris Hemsworth as a sort of criminal hacker who finds himself working for the FBI to try and avert a big sort of cybercrime that's going on. So until next week, when we'll see you next Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so how's it work? You give NSA the data, they run it, what?
No, they have a remote login, we run it. You're not thinking.
Come on, they got the keys to the kingdom. Our guy's address, maybe. Whatever he's cooking up next is right in there. Only we can't read it.
Let's go. My old correspondence with Donahue is here. But there's no way that login is still active.
I'm not going to use that login. Okay, Donahue, the NSA contact you was talking.
If NSA discovers the intrusion, you sure you want to do this?
FBI can't explain after the fact?
You locate this guy, you're okay. You get discovered, you're dead meat. You know that, don't you?